You ever find a show that appeals to you on such a specific level that it feels like no one else would even care about it, or at least see the same things in it that you do? I imagine a lot of us have at least one of those now forgotten shows that really clicked with us personally, but that we find difficult to describe what makes them all that worthwhile or distinct from any other show of their ilk. The absolute worst is when one of those shows turns out to be a disappointment, when it loses touch with what you liked about it in the first place. Not only do you have to eat your words if you had been recommending it as a hidden gem, you've got no one to rant to that cares because no one cared in the first place. I'm gonna do that anyway though, because that's how I feel about Kyoto Teramachi Sanjo no Holmes. But before we get to where it went wrong, let's talk about why I liked it in the first place. I like art, and I also really like shows that seem like they were half made for the purpose of the creator geeking out on a subject they're passionate about. It's even better when it's a subject I know very little about, as I can enjoy taking in all this fresh information and new perspectives. Learning about things by way of people who seem to genuinely care is fun and compelling, even if it might be heightened and toyed with a bit by way of being a fictional story. Kyoto Teramachi in particular is focused not just on classic art, but specifically that of the Japanese variety, something even further out of my purview. By way of its initial setup, it seemed the series would be an episodic light mystery focused on identifying the pieces, be they real or fake, with a bit of drama from the variety of characters introduced, as we also learn about the meaning behind and historical context of the item being identified, ultimately tying the story of this item into the character drama for a satisfying payoff. This is presented through our two mains, Aoi as the young apprentice, and Kiyotaka the experienced appraiser and titular character, often referred to by the nickname Holmes. With these two at their initial introduction, it fills a particular shoujo trend that appeals greatly to me personally, best exemplified by Akatsuki no Yona, a story wherein we are introduced to a weak and incapable girl, but she shows potential and puts in effort towards improving, all under the guidance of the talented, mature, and mysterious love interest. This type of setup gives you so much potential for a strong, compelling story. You can have cute moments of weakness, heartfelt moments of weakness, a genuine compelling effort towards improval, a cool and composed master, an extremely satisfying payoff as the girl's improval grows more tangible. You just can get so much out of it, and I think Aoi is a pretty good example of the things I enjoy about this trend. She's curious and inquisitive, sometimes overly so, but it functions well as an excuse to inform the viewer, and develops her growing efforts towards improval logically. Man, I just love her eagerness. For one last preliminary aspect, there is the aesthetic. I particularly like the warm tones of the soundtrack and overall visuals. It feels like it's trying to capture that comforting property to a wooden building, with the light brown outlines and earthy color palette. And though the background art struggles with the overly real look, it is helped along by the fact that the art it is presenting, realistic or not, is nice art, and I like looking at it. And as a result, the backgrounds are overall pleasing, even if they don't gel as well as they could. I particularly like when there is a lot of stuff in the background, such as in the antique shop Kiyotaka operates on his uncle's behalf, as it creates a sensation of so much to explore, as well as giving off a comfy, homely vibe. So that's all the good stuff, but here's where we reach the unfortunate part, where it all went wrong. And to be fair, it shows its hand pretty early in. I was just too distracted to notice. Kyoto Teramachi has a main villain, Kiyotaka, an arch nemesis. Okay, sure, Holmes has to have his Moriarty, I get it, but doesn't it seem at least a little bit silly? The show gives us this comically maniacal villain that Kiyotaka must thwart at every turn, but they're not superheroes. This isn't a crime thriller. He's appraising old art. There's a limit to how far you can push the bounds before it just becomes a joke, and Kyoto Teramachi goes way past that line. There's an instance where the villain, Ensho, publicly challenges Kiyotaka at a party, as he is always trying to make a counterfeit so good it will confound him, and while I get what they're going for, it just doesn't make sense. Ensho has already been established as someone who has made a lot of counterfeits and caused a lot of damage. Why isn't someone calling the police, or at least trying to stop him? He'll just pop in, do his villainy thing, get thwarted, make a goofy angry face, and then dash off like Eggman at the end of a Sonic stage. It's just plain stupid. And the fact it's dumb and bad isn't the worst part. The worst part is that every time it felt like I was being pulled away from the parts I actually liked. The dynamic between Kiyotaka and Aoi. Sure, it's not a masterpiece, but those moments were genuinely compelling and often surprisingly nuanced in their emotional portrayal. Aoi first meets Kiyotaka when she enters the antique store trying to sell an old item of her grandfather's. Her boyfriend broke up with her by text with no explanation, and she wants to give him a piece of her mind in person, but currently can't afford the travel cost. Kiyotaka bars her from selling it because she is too young, but realizes there must be a reason behind why she's trying to sell an item that clearly bears a lot of value to her and her family, and listens to her issues, giving some emotional support. As it turns out, the item she bought is priceless, and Kiyotaka, recognizing she has an eye for this, offers her a job at the antique store. That way she can earn money to make this trip at a later date. Aoi is childish in many ways, but reasonably so. Her impulsive actions spurred on by sudden strong emotions, but we see her move forward and grow close with someone else, Kiyotaka. Even when she finally does have the money, spite is no longer what dominates her mind. In fact, a new special someone is entering her heart, and she finds pride in her newfound capabilities at identifying antiques. Kiyotaka is closed off to most, but in his at-ease interactions with Aoi, he sees someone who is willing to openly express their emotions, and in turn is compelled to open up bit by bit, mentoring her like a proud father. This is the story I want to see. Why won't you just give it to me? This is no more evident than in the final episode, where a powerful emotional beat in their relationship is punctuated by jumping back to everyone's favorite madman. Oh joy. I simply don't see what having such a comical villain accomplishes that couldn't have been done through more grounded, disconnected cases. Sure, maybe have a reoccurring character here and there, but the story presented does not in any way seem like one that would benefit from a grand, overarching narrative, especially one executed so poorly. Lest I mention the ridiculous tonal shifts. I wonder if, based on everything I've described, you would expect that one of the episodes is a genuine murder mystery. Yeah, I'm not joking. This show just leaves me with so many if-onlys, and a slight desire to make my own director's cut without all the absurd drama. But hey, maybe you got some pleasure out of hearing my rant. If only I got a bit more out of the show itself. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I hope you're enjoying this month of content so far, and hopefully I can keep going strong. If you'd like to support me and what I do, then you can do so on Patreon at patreon.com/KOMOVIJ. A very special thank you in particular goes out to my patron talent. Well, that's all from me for now. I'll see you all tomorrow.